Yo, what's the word, boys? Welcome back. So the UFC 310 main event has officially been canceled. Bilal Muhammad had to pull out due to a nasty foot injury. So in today's video, we're going to go over the top 5 replacement fights for the UFC 310 main event. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I'm going to start grinding and posting a lot of videos on this account, so don't forget to subscribe. Let's start off at number 5. I have Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Leon Edwards for the interim welterweight belt. There's not many options you can go for this main event because guys like Ilia Topuria just fought, Pantoja's booked up, etc., etc. John Jones is booked up. You know what I mean? So there's not many options we can go here. And I'm going to put Shavkat, or you'll see Shavkat in a fight down the line. But for number 5, I'm going to go Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Leon Edwards. We're going to keep Shavkat in this main event, and we're going to get him a replacement, and that is, of course, the former champion, Leon Edwards. Leon got pretty much dominated by Bilal Muhammad somewhat recently, but he's the only other option besides the fight I have later on this list that somewhat makes sense. We're not going to throw Ian Gary or Joaquin Buckley in there. They're already booked. Sean Brady doesn't make that much sense, so I'm going to throw Leon in there. This is an interesting stylistic matchup. I feel like Leon would jump in there on short notice because by the looks of it, I feel like if he is to go through a whole training camp, do all that, I could see him ending up with a fight with Sean Brady. And if he has an opportunity to jump at an interim belt, I could see him doing it. Stylistically, as I said, this is a pretty fun fight. We saw what Bilal Muhammad can do to Leon Edwards if you mix in the grappling and the wrestling. Now, I'm not saying Shavkat and Bilal have extremely similar grappling and wrestling skill sets, but if Shavkat can slowly mix in the grappling throughout the fight, I think he can find success. However, he doesn't really have any head movement. Leon Edwards is a sniper on the feet, so you never know. Leon could maybe catch something, but I thought Leon Edwards' defensive grappling was a lot better before the Bilal Muhammad fight. I guess it proved to not be that good. So I think I would pick Shavkat Rakhmonov, in this fight. I think he's a stylistic nightmare for Leon Edwards to an extent. Would I be surprised if Leon wins? Not necessarily, but keep Shavkat in the main event. People want to see him fight. I don't want to see Shavkat continue to sit out. He needs to fight. It's been a very long time since that Wonderboy fight. Leon Edwards jumping back in somewhat soon. I guess it was kind of a normal turnaround, but on short notice. I think this fight makes somewhat sense, but it is at the end of my list because I'd rather see these 4 fights over it. Absolutely. Let's move on to my number 4 spot, and it might be a little bit of a shock, but I have Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez for the interim featherweight belt. Diego Lopez and Alexander Volkanovski have a shout to be fighting for the belt, but if we really want to stake claim on a number 1 contender, you can do this fight. I think both guys would be somewhat open to it. We know Alexander Volkanovski, he's got the itch. He's got the itch to fight. He posted it on his Instagram that he's in fight camp, or it looks to be like he's in fight camp, but he wants to get back into a fight. We know Diego Lopez will take any fight at any time. The Dan Ige situation was incredible. If this is for an interim belt, you don't really need an interim belt on the line, but if you want it as the main event and if you need it as the main event, why not slap the interim belt on it? It only makes a Ilia Topuria fight a little bit more exciting. And this is a very intriguing fight. It's a dangerous fight for Alexander Volkanovski, especially on short notice. Diego Lopez has that massive finishing threat in the first round. He's dangerous in the pocket. He is able to land, and I'm not so sure if Alexander Volkanovski's chin will be able to hold up in this fight, but at the same time, I think both guys would accept it. Would I be surprised if Alexander Volkanovski wins? Actually, not at all. I really wouldn't be surprised if Volkanovski wins. Would I be surprised if he gets knocked out? Not at all. That's why this fight is intriguing, because if Diego Lopez wins, I'm not that surprised. If Volkanovski wins, I'm not too surprised. And say Diego Lopez goes out there and gets a crazy finish over Volkanovski. Say he submits Volkanovski. He gets the interim belt. That only makes a potential fight, or I say potential because interim champions just don't fight the real champions nowadays. So a potential fight with Ilia Topuria, it would only be more hyped up. It would only be more exciting. And you never know. Say Diego Lopez beats Volkanovski and then he goes out there and beats Ilia Topuria. Now you have a massive, massive star on your hand and already one of the greatest resumes in their featherweight division. So I think in terms of the fight, it would be very entertaining. It makes a lot of sense. You could really find out who is the clear-cut number one contender in the featherweight division. And I think both guys would be down for it. And it's crazy to even think of Alexander Volkanovski in this position because in the past, dominant champions always get their immediate rematch. And Alexander Volkanovski is one of the most dominant champions in UFC history. And now he is fighting Diego Lopez in a dangerous, dangerous number one contenders fight. It's crazy how much this sport can change in such little time. But that's my number 4 spot. It's a very cool fight. But these are where we get to the heavy hitters, the top 3. The top 3 are fights that I want to see. At number 3, you could probably guess it. You probably could guess that it was going to be on this video or in this video at some point. It is not Alexander Volkanovski. Holy shit, no. It is Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev for the light heavyweight title. It's Alex Pereira. You never know when this dude's going to fight. He's fighting one Saturday and then, he's fighting the next Saturday. I don't know what he does. This will be his 5th fight of the year, I think, which is genuinely insane for a guy who is new to the UFC and he's just building a crazy, crazy legacy. 5 fights in 1 year for our champion is on another level. Both guys have shown interest in this fight. Alex Pereira has tweeted out and posted on Instagram the phone emoji. Magomed Ankalaev has been talking a lot of shit. He's going to knock out Alex Pereira. I'll only stand on the feet with Pereira. I'll knock him out. So I think both guys would be interesting. We know we could rely on Alex Pereira. He has saved dozens of cards. UFC 295, I believe, because John Jones pulled out and he still hasn't fought. The UFC 300 main event, and even the Salt Lake City card, he somewhat saved that as well. We know Alex Pereira is down. The fight would be massive. You could argue it's bigger than Rakhmonov versus Muhammad. It's Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev, you can argue, is the biggest challenge Alex Pereira will have faced in the light heavyweight division. I would not be surprised if Ankalaev goes out there and wins, but if Alex Pereira can come in on short notice once again, his 5th fight of the year, and knock out a guy like Ankalaev from that region, that gains him a lot of hype, even though he is already the biggest star in the sport. And if Alex Pereira wins this against Ankalaev, there's not many contenders left in the light heavyweight division, and then you're kind of looking at that heavyweight debut for Pereira, and then if he wins that, he's the fucking GOAT, biggest star in the sport. So this could be a massive opportunity for Pereira, but on the other hand, it is also a massive opportunity for Ankalaev. You don't give Pereira a long training camp. You get in there. You have a stylistic advantage, you could argue. So it's a big opportunity for both guys. The fans would want to see this fight. It's Alex Pereira. Simple. Let's move on to number 2. Shavkat Rakhmonov is making his appearance once again. And this is a fight that I really want to see. Does it make all the sense in the world? No. Is it a guy coming off of 3 straight losses? Yes. But it is Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, still has it. What he did to Khamzat Chimaev on short notice, we could look back at that and be like, damn, that's an impressive performance because Khamzat just ragdolled Robert Whittaker in one of the craziest performances we've seen in recent memory. So Kamaru Usman absolutely still has it. He's been teasing that he's getting into fight camp, saying he's always ready. So if I had to make a guess, if I had to make a prediction, I think Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman for the interim belt is going to happen at UFC 310. And stylistically, I think Kamaru Usman gives a lot of trouble to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat doesn't really have that much head movement. Kamaru Usman has one of the best jabs in the UFC, in UFC history, to be completely honest. His defensive grappling and wrestling is still top tier. I would maybe pick Kamaru Usman in this fight. He is one of my favorite fighters of all time. I think this fight is super hype. I think the fans would be down for it. And say Kamaru Usman wins this fight, man. Kamaru Usman with the belt again would be awesome. And I think he can absolutely win this fight. People will continue to pick Shavkat by finish, Shavkat by this, Shavkat by that. But I'm telling you, if this fight gets made, do not be surprised if Kamaru Usman walks out of there with the interim title. I think this fight is the one that's going to happen. Besides my number one selection, this would be the most hyped up for me because seeing Kamaru Usman in the championship environment just feels right. Like, that's what I love. Kamaru Usman fighting for a belt just feels right in the UFC. So, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Kamaru Usman, interim title, give it to me. Give it to me, please. But at number one, let's move on to number one. So, guys, fellas, let me talk to you for a second. The next upcoming pay-per-view, UFC 310, or 309, excuse me. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Jon Jones has said he does not want to fight Tom Aspinall. He will duck Tom Aspinall. But there is one fight that Jon Jones seems to have his eyes on, and it is a potential Alex Pereira fight. Yes, Alex Pereira is making his return in this fight. However, is there any way we can force Jon Jones to fight Tom Aspinall, or just openly admit, if he hasn't already, that he's ducking him and that he's scared of him? Yeah, it's if Tom Aspinall goes out there and finishes Alex Pereira, and that's my number one selection. That is my number one selection. It is Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira for the interim heavyweight title. And say both guys retire, Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic, you could change this fight for an undisputed championship. You could make it an undisputed championship fight, and even on short notice, this is one of the biggest fights in UFC history. It is my number one selection because if I had to make an unrealistic pick, it would be this. This would be insane. We could force Jon Jones, his back against the wall if Tom Aspinall goes out there and destroys Alex Pereira, because Jon Jones has been talking about how Tom is pretty much a nobody. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't proven himself. And Jon Jones has been talking up about Alex Pereira, saying he is one of the biggest stars in the sport. That's a mega fight. So what's better than Tom Aspinall going out there and brutalizing Alex Pereira in the first round, and then Jon Jones can't really go anywhere? But that's besides the point. Let's talk about the fight itself. Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira. As I said, it's one of the biggest fights in UFC history. It's massive for both guys. Let's start off with Tom Aspinall. If he wins this fight, that's another massive, massive name on his resume. Beating Alex Pereira is huge and can do you wonders. He defends his interim title once more. He proves he is easily the best heavyweight on the planet and proves he is the real heavyweight champion. And as I said earlier, if both guys retire, we can unify that belt for Tom Aspinall and his stardom can really start to skyrocket. But for Alex Pereira, if he wins this fight, say Jon Jones sticks around, Alex Pereira with the interim belt holy crap, that was bad. Sorry for the stutter. Say Alex Pereira wins this fight. He's the interim champ, and now you get that fight with Jon Jones. That's a massive fight. Say Alex Pereira beats Tom Aspinall. He's the first ever triple champion. I would probably be calling him the greatest fighter of all time if he knocks out Tom Aspinall in one round. So it's extremely intriguing from both parties, Aspinall and Pereira. It is the dream fight. It is the dream fight. It's one of the biggest fights in UFC history. It's absolutely monumental, and it being one pay-per-view after Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic can be huge. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Which fight is your favorite? If I had to pick an unrealistic one, it would be Aspinall versus Pereira. Realistically, though, I think it's going to be Shavkat versus Kamaru Usman. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that. Follow all my socials. Links will be in the description. Peace out.